This is that kit Princeton Reverb build that came in. And when it came in, it was in really bad shape. It had really been put together poorly. Pots of the wrong values and tapers and all kinds of wiring mistakes and sloppy lead dress. And here's the rub. Normally, I wouldn't have even taken that amp in. If someone said, hey, I've got this kit build, I'd say, send me some pictures of it. If I saw it like that, I'd say, I'm sorry, it's not worth spending the money to have me make that better. It's a catch-22 for the owner because the stuff needed to make it right is a lot of very simple things, but it's a lot of simple things. So it's more than the average owner can tackle, but it's not, intrinsically valuable enough to have a guy like me rebuild it properly. It's best to choose a good kit from the beginning. The trouble is, from the outside, all kit amps look the same. You see the cabinet, you see the chassis, you see the tubes, you see all this stuff on the outside. No one ever shows the guts if you're buying one. Like I said, normally I would have refused to work on this amp, but this amp belongs to a guy who's been watching me since I had like 100 subscribers. Baby channel. He's grown with me. He's been very kind. He's sent me some goodies in the past. I wanted to help him out. So after going through all the things that were wrong with the amp and figuring out what it would cost to make it right, I decided, what the hell? I'm just going to make it right, and we'll work out a brother-in-law kind of deal, and he's going to get a really good amp back, and I'm not going to charge him a ton for it. But, some things should be done right, and it's really easy to do them right, but it's also really easy to do them wrong, which is what most people do. Anyway, I wanted him to have a good amp, an amp that he could be proud of, that he could rely on. So that's what I've tried to do. So I took everything out pretty much. I even removed the tube sockets, did a deep cleaning on them, put everything back. Still has the original transformers. The transformers were fine. The filter cap is fine. The boards were fine, though I totally repopulated them. I did reuse some of the capacitors it came with, but none of the resistors pretty much. Had to change out all the pots except for one. Had to rewire how the input jacks were done. Had to rewire how the output jacks were done. All this stuff. But the end result is a very nice amplifier. Now, maybe you noticed in all those panning shots that the grounds are now made to chassis the same way they were in an old Fender. And normally when I get a new chassis like this, I do a drilled hole with ground lugs. Then people always say, why don't you solder to these the way you do to the old ones? Well, the answer is, and I certainly discovered that this was real on this one, is that the coating used on these modern chassis, even though it's steel, the chassis, is very different than the coating used in the 60s, and it takes a lot to get through the protective layer to get down to the bare steel. I managed to do it. I don't want to do it again, so next one I do with one of these modern chassis, I will use the hardware with the ground lug, but it is possible. So this, the cathode here goes over here, the cathode here goes over here, here to here, here to here, just like in an old Princeton Reverb from the 60s. All the stuff over by the power transformer is done the same. All the pots are now the correct values. All the pots are now the correct taper. It was really tough getting the pots as tight as I'd like because unlike an original Fender from the 60s, this thing has got a plastic panel, not a metal panel. And so the plastic front panel compresses a bit, so it's harder to get it really tight. But I managed. It's just a matter of determination. But notice the lead dress in these areas. Used to be wires just going everywhere randomly, from wherever they go on the board to over here or over here. Now it's all nicely twisted and separated from each other. So here's the tone stack stuff. Here's the reverb stuff. Here's the tremolo stuff. All out of the way. No excess. Same for the lead dress on all the preamp tube sockets. The old Fenders would have had all yellow wires. Some of the ones around 65 actually had all black wires. I didn't have enough yellow to do this. I had enough blue, so this one's got blue wires. Makes no difference. What does make a difference is if the wires aren't just tucked into the little holes on the pins and soldered. The wires are brought through, around top, and crimped down with no excess, and then soldered. So there's a mechanical connection before the solder is done on each and every one. The existing heater wiring was really sloppy, a lot of melts, oversized wire for the application. This is 20 gauge. Had a lot of exposed metal where there was no insulation, coming very close to the chassis. And in fact, there's a scorch mark over to the right where one of them was touching the chassis at times. So I just took all that junk out. This is 20 gauge stranded Teflon. Very nice stuff. If I was using 6L6s or EL34s, I would have used 18 gauge down in the output section. But for 6v6s, the 20 is fine. Let's talk hardware choices. The amp as it came in had some self-tapping sheet metal screws that were really long and pointy, and were coming very close to touching a lot of the heater connections. Those have all been replaced with some 3/8 inch number 8 sheet metal screws. I wouldn't have done this from the beginning, but since they were already in place, this is better than the really long pointy ones. I mean, they're still pointy, and if I were to order from McMaster Carr, I could have gotten some that were slightly shorter, but these work. The bias board and main board were held in place by these crappy little nylon screws and nuts, and you could have never tightened these. If you tried to tighten it, it would just spin. It just kind of go through, pop out of the groove. Junk. So they've got number 8 by 32 screws with number 8 by 32 Keps nuts on the other side. This board's solid. The bias board is solid. They had mismatched hardware holding this cap in place. They had a number 4 here and a number 6 here, and they were done from the other side. So the screw heads were here and the nuts were on the other side. These are number 6s done properly. Same for the output transformer mounting holes. The really bad sloppy solder joints that were done both to the nut and to the solder lugs here and here are gone. New Keps nuts, all nice and tight. New ground connections. Excess wire taped off. You can see there's a bend underneath there where it's crimped over on itself before I do the heat shrink. That can never pull out. Little things that add up. There was just so much slop and excess over here. It's all been neatened up, everything redone properly. Now, this is not the classic Princeton Reverb circuit, which is a great circuit. I love it. But I took this opportunity to make some improvements. It has higher headroom, cleaner output section, more graceful transition to overdrive, and deeper tremolo. Still, everything you love about a Princeton Reverb is there, but the weaknesses aren't quite as weak. Now, if I were building one of these from scratch, it would not have all the mismatched caps. Like I said, I was reusing the caps that came in that were good, changed out the ones that weren't or were the wrong value, got rid of all the generic silver micas, put in some nice Vishays here. Here they had a Sozo that was way too physically long to fit in this space, so Panasonic's over here. You know, I'm not trying to make this look like an amp that I build as a custom build in terms of, ooh, don't you want one? Here, sign up. You know, this is making do. The stuff that could stay has stayed. The stuff that had to go is long gone. Let's hear it. Now, aside from me sitting with the pickups about a foot from the transformers, about the only hum you'll hear is when I'm on the straight single coils with a Strat. So now it sounds like a Princeton Reverb with a little more headroom and a little deeper tremolo. It's also a little bit slower than stock. And, you know, if you were to push into overdrive, which I'm not going to do right now, because it's still not all that. I don't think Princeton Reverb's ever the world's best overdrive sounding amp, but, you know, it does transition more gracefully. I've shown that on other Princetons with the similar mods in the past. You know, it's nice sounding Fender, and it's enough louder than stock that this would actually hang with a deluxe reverb if you had a very efficient speaker, which the owner will be getting as well. As always, thanks for watching.